right. So, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Charles Wilhelm. Tucson. I've lived in Tucson since 1994. Shortly after coming down here, early '95, I started with AOL.
Right on.
Had a nice career there.
Let's start here. What's the first time that you saw or used a computer?
Oh God! So the first time I ever saw a computer. So this is really cool. I had found a magazine that had an article about a TRS, the Radio Shack Trash 80, the TRS 80. And the article was like, they were explaining this little program written in Logo, I think it was, where you had this little turtle that had a bunch of pins. You could put the pen down. And I was probably, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12 years old. And this fascinated me. I was like, this blew my mind. I was like, I'm reading this thing. I was like, you can take a set of commands and tell this little turtle what to do, and then just hands off and he does it. And I carried this magazine like rolled up in my back pocket for like weeks. And then one day, I'm like riding my bicycle downtown, and I go past the local Radio Shack, and I look in there, and our Radio Shack was in the strip mall. It was this long, like, way back. And in the very back, I see they've got the TRS-80, and it's set up.
Right.
And it's on. And it was like one of those moments, like in the movies, where the angels cry out from heaven, and it's like, oh, and the light beams come down, and I was like, oh, they've got one. And I go in there and I ask the lady, it's like, can I go play with that? She's like, sure, go. And I like pulled out my grubby worn magazine, and I run back there, and I'm like, and I spent like 4 hours back there typing in like all these little logo programs and watching this turtle. And I was like, this is the most fantastic thing I've ever seen. And so, like, I think the summer after that, I started mowing lawns. And so I'm like, I'm just saving up for a computer, man. I got to get me one of those,
Nice. Okay, so that leads to the next question. What's the first computer you owned?
So the first computer I owned was the Texas Instruments 99-4A.
I remember those.
I had been mowing lawns and, like, saving up all this money. And my folks and I, we were like, we had to go to Silver City, New Mexico to see some eye doctor my dad was going to. And we happened to go by a Kmart on the way out of town. And here was this big old pile of 99-4As, and they're on sale for $99. Little did I know it's because they were having a fire sale to get rid of them. But,
Right.
But I was like, and I'm looking at my pocket, I got like $120, and I'm like, bam. So I bought myself that TI 99-4A, took it home, and was in love forever.
Right on. So, how has technology changed your life?
So, technology changed my life because this computer thing was something that just grabbed me at that early age and struck some kind of a spark or a chord in my brain. And every single day, I mean, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning after I make my coffee is I go sit on the computer and I wiggle the mouse and I'm on the thing. When I go to work, this is what I do for a living. I'm out fixing people's computers. And I love that. And it's like I found my niche in life the first time I saw that computer. It's like, this is what you're going to do.
All right.
This is your thing.
So what do you expect from future technology?
Hopefully great things. Hopefully not scary things. You always hear the AI is going to destroy us, the whole Terminator thing. And it's like,
right.
It's like, it's going to kill jobs, But there's always going to have to be somebody fixing that computer, so that's where I'm at.
That's a fact. And it's a different type of training, is what it boils down to compared to.
I myself personally, I'm aligned really well for that because I'm the guy that's fixing the computer.
Yeah. So what did you not see coming?
That's a tough question,
I'll just give you some examples I've heard. I mean, I've heard, self-driving cars. I mean, I kind of saw that. Social media, that's one I didn't see coming. You know what I mean? It's a way to communicate. We had chat rooms and things, or ways to communicate.
The early AOL days, you had to chat and everything.
Not the level that we do now.
But not like now. So, it's like.
But what did you not see coming? I mean, having a computer that's quicker than anything I grew up with in my hand anywhere I go.
I don't know, that kind of stuff I've always been a sci-fi fan.
Right.
So, and I read incessantly. So a lot of this stuff.
Well, compared to a communicator on Star Trek.
Beam me up, Scotty, man. It's like our cell phones are so far beyond that. And a lot of the stuff they come out with it, and I'm like, well, of course they did. I read about that 20 years ago in my sci-fi, So
you expect it, yeah. It's kind of like that's the path we're headed to.
So being a really, really really heavy reader and consumer of sci-fi, there's a lot of this stuff that it comes out, and I'm just like, well, of course, it's about time.
Okay, so last question. How did AOL change your life?
AOL changed my life because it was, I had always found jobs where computers were a peripheral part of the job. One of my first high school jobs working in an auto parts store, and they transitioned from a paper-based inventory to a computerized inventory. But that was a peripheral part of my job, using the computer, and I loved it. And my next job was in a warehouse, and I was a warehouse guy, and they brought in a computer, and it was a peripheral, but it was one of those peripheral parts of my job where I gravitated toward it, and I became the guy. You got a question? Oh, well, go ask Charles. He knows that thing inside out. He's over there going, brr. AOL was the first place where the computer was my job.
Right.
Somebody's got a problem with a computer. And every job I'd had before that, like working in the plumbing warehouse, people would come in with some weird issue, and I would problem solve it. But it was a weird issue about their freaking 40-year-old faucet that they wanted hooked to modern plumbing, or vice versa. AOL was the first time that they're calling me about computer problems, and I'm like, this is fantastic. I've got this weird arcane knowledge in my head, and somebody's going to pay me to share it with people. This is fantastic. This is my life calling. So when the AOL, I was at AOL for almost 12 years, and I freaking loved it. I would still be there. I would still be employed there today if I could.
Yeah.
But it ended, as all things do.
Yeah.
But that propelled me into the next phase of what do I want to do in my life? Well, think back to all the different jobs I did at AOL. Which one brought me the most joy? It was when I was on the phones. That first 2.5 years. Yeah. Of those 12 years, the first 2.5 I was on the phones just helping people. And I was like, man, that's when I got the most satisfaction. I would do that problem-solving magic that I do, and somebody would have that immediate that they're like, oh my God, you're the best, you fixed my problem.
I know that feeling. It's because you are the solution.
Exactly. So when I started shopping around for another job, I was like, well, I've never done, desk side support, but that seems like the thing, man. I'll go walk out there and I'll like fix their problem. And so that's what I gravitated towards. And it was because of AOL. They allowed me to say, well, hey, I've got experience doing this phone-based support. I think I could do your desktop support. And they're like, I think you could. I'm going to hire you, son.
Yeah, so it's what a lot of people have covered that too, is the fact that it gave you the training.
Exactly.
To go to training, skills.
New skills. And I learned an awful lot of... One of the things I learned at AOL, so working for Rick Marshall, and I was ostensibly a QA guy. They would create a knowledge base, and I was the gatekeeper. I would QA it and say yay or nay whether it shipped out. And while those guys are authoring, we're sitting and twiddling our thumbs. And Rick allowed me to have time to, he says, well, can you build a little webby thingy that'll do this? And I went, sure. And I ran back to my desk and I Googled how to build webby thingy that does this.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I need a server that does PHP and MySQL and this. And so I was like, found a desktop computer.
How to do that part and that
part. And I stuck it under my desk and I put Linux on it. And and this was not part of my job duties, but it allowed me to learn database programming and SQL and Linux and all this stuff. And then Rick would say, can we add this to it? Sure. And I go back and Google, how do I program this in PHP? And I learned all this stuff, that I would have not ever had an opportunity to learn otherwise.
Nice. Excellent. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself one more time, Charles?
Sure. Hey, this is Charles Wilhelm. What more do you want, Charles?
That's
sorry.